Rendering is a technique used in computer-generated images when one takes a picture of a building or anything and one wants to make it as realistic as possible, usually within an already existing space, as it is the case of this building, which is in an unreal space, but it shows what could be what I think is a hospital with as much realism as possible. There are several types and techniques. The most basic is adding shading and color to a 2D or 3D wireframe, which is like an image which is only lines, black and white. Or it can also be like real-time rendering when with movement and capturing images. This is especially done for video games. Rendering is very useful for construction and public infrastructure, as it allows to see ahead of time how will a building look in the future. The two main apps for rendering are IPDFs and graphics illustration. These apps allow for people in iPads to render images and or documents. Also, there is another technique used for rendering, which is real-time scanning of objects, as in rendering them in a digital model in a computer. So you use a laser scanner and you scan a three-dimensional object, which is then converted into a render. 3D animation is another type of computer-generated imaging, which is consistent on creating a three-dimensional image with width, depth, height, length, and circumference in their case of a sphere, in order to display it in a computer as if it were a 3D object in real life. This can have many applications, as is movie industry, which allows to exploit the creativity of anybody, as it can show any scene which you couldn't achieve with regular physical actors and or situations. It also allows for people to create video games, as most video games are just a 3D animated interactive program. As in this case, it allows to create a cartoon-like model with highly realistic skin and hair, because the computer understands the shapes of the face as a 3D and not as a flat line pattern. The main types are CGI 3D animation for movies and CGI 3D animation for products, objects, cars, models, and video games. As it is the case with rendering, 3D animation can also use real-time virtual scanning of the physical world to convert it into 3D animated data. But from that point on, with a basic taken from reality graphic, you can do anything you want with a graphic. Example, you can scan a face and make it talk, move, act, walk like it was an actor. The main Android mobile apps for 3D animation are 3D Camera, Camera 3D, 3D Camera Make 3D, Home Design 3D, and Fogi 3D Camera. Augmented reality, as its title indicates, is a combination of virtual world and the real world, usually done through the mediums of a camera, when real-life video or a feed of images is superposed with information that comes from the digital device. This information may be hidden and is triggered by certain color or shape patterns in the real world, as it is the example of Pokemon Go, where you can be around your environment and the game senses where you are and superposes information to your environment in such a way that you can interact with the physical reality, and it augments it because it displays certain information and interactive elements within the actual physical reality. You can see in this case that it is not only images or information that can be superposed to the real world, also video or images and sounds. Some types and uses for virtual reality are video game industry, coloring children's book, as it is the case with Disney, which they launched a coloring book that you could scan with your phone with an app, and it allowed you to draw on top of the real physical book. There is also augmented reality in Google Glass, which is infotainment There is also augmented reality in jet fighters and military industrial complex, which uses it for glasses, pilots, and many types of people that need heads-up information, also in their cars, and it is present throughout most of the technological industry. There is sound augmented reality, information augmented reality, visual augmented reality, video augmented reality, interactive augmented reality, or merely an augmented reality that consists of showing you how high are you in the sky within the windshield of your plane. Main apps for augmented reality mobile phones are Disney Coloring Book, Augment 3D augmented reality, Layer, Satellite AR, which allows you to see the night sky with augmented reality without information, AR Concert with Miku, Landscape R, Wikitude, Toyota 86 AR, and AR Free Flight. Virtual reality is a technology that, as opposed to augmented reality, creates a whole new reality for the user. This main type of augmented reality is visual virtual reality, as audio and text virtual reality are considered merely aids for the main kind of virtual reality, which is visual. Here we can see an example of goggles, as it can be HTC Vive or PlayStation Virtual, which allow you to play video games on virtual reality, seeing in first person as your character would see, and sometimes interacting with the objects within the game space with hand gloves or special sensors that allow you to move objects around. In this case, there are many types of virtual reality, the main being completely isolating the subject to sound, vision, and possibly sense, isolating these three senses to be immersed in a whole new reality. This has to be a three-dimensional reality. The main types of uses are video game industry. It can also be applied to military training experiences, as in with pilot lighting software programs, and or it can be used to help people with disabilities communicate better with the outer world. In this case, the top apps would be the top headsets for virtual reality, being the HTC Vive, the PlayStation VR, the Oculus Rift, the Samsung Gear VR, and, well, the apps that accompany, or the software that accompanies this and creates the virtual reality.